In the far reaches of the galaxy, before the wars and before the alliances, there was one rule that all species agreed upon. It was written into the codes of the stars and spoken at every council. It was called the First Galactic Law. The law was simple. No one shall harm humanity's children. No empire, no fleet, no ruler dared to break it. Because when the humans first walked among the stars, they had made their warning clear. The children of Earth were sacred. To touch them was to invite destruction. For centuries, the galaxy respected this law. Empires rose and fell, but none dared to test humanity's promise. The memory of the first wars with mankind still burned in the minds of the old races. They remembered Earth's fire, Earth's rage, Earth's endless will to fight. So they obeyed. But not everyone feared. Far away, on the dark edge of the Orion Rift, the Kroll Dominion plotted in silence. The Kroll were proud, cruel, and hungry for power. They had seen humanity's fleets grow busy with other threats. They whispered among themselves that humans had grown soft. They convinced themselves that Earth's people were no longer the warriors of legend. And so, in secret, they broke the First Galactic Law. It began with whispers. Cargo ships carrying supplies to human colonies vanished. Scouts never returned. Then came the shadows, silent attacks on the edges of human space. At first, no one knew who was responsible. But the truth was darker. The Kroll were not only raiding ships. They were taking children. No one in the galaxy dared believe it at first. Such a crime was unthinkable. To steal human children was to spit on the oldest warning in the stars. Yet the Kroll Dominion had done it, and they believed no one would discover their crime. On Earth, the first signs appeared quietly. Families waited for ships that never arrived. Colonies sent messages that their young had gone missing during the night. Human leaders tried to stay calm, but unease grew. Parents whispered of shadows, of strange ships vanishing into the void. And then the silence came. It was not the silence of space, but a silence in the hearts of humanity. Entire colonies reported that their children were gone, every last one. No cries, no struggle, only empty rooms and abandoned toys. It was as if the stars themselves had swallowed them. Across the galaxy, other species trembled. They remembered the First Galactic Law. They remembered what humanity had promised long ago. If you harm our children, we will come for you. The Kroll Dominion thought they had acted in secret. They thought humans were distracted, too far, too weak. But the galaxy knew the truth. They whispered it in fear. The law has been broken. On Earth, the High Council gathered. They studied the messages, the broken signals, the empty silence. And they understood. Someone had dared to test them. Someone had stolen what was most sacred. The chamber was filled with shadows as the counselors spoke in hushed tones. No one raised their voice. They did not need to. Every human in that room felt the same cold fire burning inside. One counselor finally said the words no one wanted to speak. They have taken our children. The silence that followed was heavier than war drums. Out in the Orion Rift, the Kroll Dominion celebrated their secret victory. They believed the humans would do nothing. They believed the law was a myth, a story to scare the weak. They laughed in their holes of steel, their claws dripping with arrogance. But across human space, ships began to move. Fleets that had slept for decades lit their engines. Old war machines, hidden in silence, awakened with thunder. Men and women whispered ancient vows as they strapped into their ships. The galaxy felt it, a shift, a rumble, like a storm building in the dark. The Kroll Dominion had broken the First Galactic Law, and humanity had heard the cry of their missing children. No one knew what would happen next. The Kroll believed themselves safe. Other empires prayed they were wrong. And the humans prepared. The stars themselves seemed to wait, holding their breath. Because everyone knew one truth that had echoed for centuries. When humanity's children are taken, retribution always follows. And in the Orion Rift, the Kroll Dominion would soon learn the meaning of fear. The children were gone, and no one knew where they were. The silence spread across human space like a shadow. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of something missing, something broken. Parents called out for their children and heard only echoes. Colonies sent desperate messages, their words filled with fear. They are gone, all of them. Our children are gone. Earth listened, and the silence pressed on every heart. In the high council chambers, no one spoke loudly. The leaders of humanity sat in the dim light, faces carved with grief and fury. Every message from the colonies played again and again on the great screens. Empty rooms, abandoned toys, voices of parents shaking with sorrow. They knew the law, whispered one counselor. They knew the first law, yet they broke it. Another clenches fists. The galaxy warned them. The galaxy remembers. And now, his voice trailed off, but everyone understood. The silence was not only in human space. Beyond Earth, other species felt it too. In the great markets of the SCIFI, traders spoke in hushed tones. In the courts of the Varric, nobles avoided each other's eyes. Even in the neutral zones, the silence carried. Everyone knew the first galactic law had been broken, and when humanity's children were harmed, war always followed. But who had dared? The name of the Kroll Dominion was not yet spoken by the humans. They had no proof, no clear trail. The Kroll shadow fleets had left no survivors. Yet whispers drifted across the galaxy. Old traders muttered of dark ships near the Orion Rift. Exiles spoke of secret labs and cages hidden deep within Kroll territory. The humans listened. They said nothing. But deep inside, rage burned. In the outer colonies, soldiers prepared without orders. They sharpened their blades, cleaned their rifles, and tested their ships. Families who had lost children stood at their sides, silent but unbroken. They all knew what was coming. One night, on a lonely outpost near the Vega line, a young officer sat before his screen. His name was Captain Elias Ward. His colony had been one of the first to lose its children. His own sister's son was among the missing. He stared into the stars and whispered, "Where are they? Where did you take them?" And in that moment, something strange happened. The silence shifted. A broken signal flashed across the stars, faint and weak, as if carried by ghosts. Elias caught it and played it back. It was almost nothing, just static fragments of sound. But within it, he heard a child's cry. Not words, just a cry. Elias froze. His heart thundered. He sent a signal to Earth, and within hours, the Council had it. Scientists analyzed it, breaking the static apart. They found traces of Kroll code buried inside. The Council did not announce it to the galaxy. They did not warn the Dominion. They simply nodded, grim and silent. Now they knew the truth. The Kroll Dominion had taken their children. Across the fleets of Earth, quiet orders spread. Old warships lit their engines, but no broadcasts were made. Human ships vanished into the void, leaving only the faint glow of their drives. The galaxy watched, uneasy, but no one spoke, because they knew what the silence meant. The humans were moving. The Kroll, in their arrogance, laughed when they heard of Earth's movements. They are weak, their leaders said. They are emotional. They cannot stand against us. Their fleets gathered in secret, building fortresses along the Orion Rift. They believed they would crush humanity before it could strike. But the Kroll did not understand. Humanity did not shout before war. Humanity did not boast. Humanity prepared in silence, and when the silence broke, it broke like thunder. The first fleets were already gone, slipping through hidden lanes of dark space. No one knew where they were headed. Not even the Council revealed their path. On the abandoned colonies, parents stood before empty homes, staring into the night sky. They felt the silence too, and though they wept, they also whispered, "For our children." The galaxy grew tense. The silence stretched longer, darker, heavier, until it felt like the air itself was waiting to break. And in the hidden halls of the Kroll Dominion, a prisoner cried out. A child's voice, soft and trembling, echoed in a cage of steel. The sound was swallowed by wolves, unheard by gods. But somewhere, out in the endless night, humanity had already heard that cry. The silence would not last forever. The galaxy was never silent for long. Rumors traveled faster than fleets, faster than light itself. In every port, in every market, in every dark corner of the stars, whispers began. The humans are moving. No one saw the fleets leave. No broadcasts were made. No warnings, no threats. Yet everyone felt it. Human warships had slipped into the void, unseen, unheard, but not unnoticed. Something stirred in the deep black, and the galaxy held its breath. The SCIFI traders were the first to speak of it. Their ships crossed in neutral zones and carried stories of vanished patrols, of human scouts seen only for a heartbeat before they disappeared again. Soon, the Varick nobles repeated the tales in their grand halls, their voices uneasy. Even the WNN, who feared nothing, spoke of shadows moving across star lanes. Everywhere the same words were whispered. Retribution has begun. The Kroll Dominion laughed when they heard the rumors. Their leaders called them lies, stories made to frighten children. Humans cannot touch us, they said. They are too few, too scattered. Their lore is nothing but an old myth. But their soldiers were not so sure. On the outer edge of Kroll space, a garrison reported strange movements. Ships on the scanners, their one moment, gone the next. Shadows in the deep, circling like hunters. No weapons fired, no battles fought, just a heavy feeling of being watched. The commander of the garrison sent a message to his superiors. The humans are here. The reply came quickly, sharp and cold. There are no humans in Kroll space. You are imagining ghosts. But the commander knew what he had seen. He knew the old law, the one the galaxy feared. And for the first time, he felt a tremor of doubt. Meanwhile, in the hidden chambers of Earth's High Council, plans unfolded in silence. Human fleets were not striking yet. They were positioning, studying, preparing. The Council remembered history. They remembered that victory was not in rage alone, but in patience. Admiral Soraya Van stood before the great star maps, her eyes sharp as steel. The Kroll believe they are safe, she said softly. Let them. We will move like smoke. They will not see the fire until it is upon them. The officers around her nodded. They did not cheer. Humans did not cheer for war. They prepared for it. Across human space, families waited, clinging to the last memory of their missing children. They did not know the Council's plans, but they trusted them. And in every home, in every colony, people whispered the same words. Retribution will come. The whispers grew louder with each passing day. Alien traders carried them across star systems. Mercenaries spoke them in bars. Even the distant empires, far removed from the Kroll, felt the weight of the words. The Kroll Dominion, once so proud, began to hear those whispers in their own halls. Soldiers looked over their shoulders. Officers argued in secret. Some asked if the humans truly would stop at nothing. And then a shadow fell. On the border of Kroll space, one of their patrol fleets vanished. No distress call, no battle record, just gone. Only a single broken lifeboat was later found drifting, its survivor half mad with fear. His words, scattered and shaking, spread like fire. They came out of the dark, silent, cold. They didn't speak. They didn't demand. They just destroyed. And they whispered, for the children. The Kroll tried to silence the survivor. They locked him away, erased his reports, declared the story false. But it was too late. The words had already spread. For the children. Now every Kroll soldier heard the phrase in their sleep. Every officer wondered when the shadows would fall on their fleet. The Dominion's leaders roared, demanded loyalty, demanded strength. But fear had already taken root. And far away, hidden in the void, humanity's fleets prepared their first strike. They had not yet revealed themselves fully. They had not yet unleashed their fury. But the whispers had done their work. The galaxy knew. The Kroll feared. And the children still waited in cages of steel, their cries echoing in the dark. Humanity had heard those cries. The retribution had not yet begun, but it was coming. And when it came, the Kroll would understand what the galaxy already knew. There is no wrath greater than that of humanity avenging its children. The Kroll Dominion believed the whispers were nothing more than fear. Their leaders stood in shining halls, dressed in gold and steel, laughing at the rumors of human retribution. Stories, they said, shadows and lies. But their soldiers were not laughing. Patrols vanished. Outposts sent strange reports of scanners detecting movement, only to find empty space. Even when no shots were fired, the soldiers felt hunted. The law had been broken, and in their hearts, they knew the humans would come. The first strike began in silence. In the dark of the Orion Rift, a Kroll outpost orbited a lifeless moon. It was a fortress of black iron, guarded by 3 warships and armed with heavy cannons. Its commanders believed no one could approach unseen. They were wrong. From the void, shadows moved, sleek human warships, their engines hidden, their weapons ready. They drifted like predators, patient and cold. On the bridge of the lead ship, Admiral Soraya Vance stood with her officers. Her voice was steady, almost quiet. "For the children," she said. The order was given. Human ships burst from the dock, their weapons lighting the void. The first Kroll warship never had a chance. Its shield shattered in seconds, its hull ripped apart in a storm of fire. The second ship tried to flee, but human torpedoes caught it mid-flight, breaking it into burning pieces. The fortress roared to life, cannons blazing, but the humans were faster. They moved with precision, every strike cold and deliberate. Where Kroll fire was wild, human fire was focused. Where Kroll soldiers shouted in panic, human crews worked in silence, their eyes fixed on vengeance. The third warship turned to fight. For a moment, it seemed the Kroll might hold line. Then, a human boarding ship cut across its flank. Soldiers in black armor stormed the decks, silent as shadows. The Kroll defenders screamed, but the humans said nothing. They fought with blades, with rifles, with the fury of a people who had lost what was most sacred. Within minutes, the ship was theirs. On the fortress, alarms screamed. Kroll officers shouted orders, demanding their men stand firm. But already, panic spread. The humans were not just attackers, they were hunters. Every strike was exact, every shot meant a cripple, not waste. The Dominion soldiers realized they were not facing rage. They were facing calculated wrath. Admiral Vance's fleet circled the fortress, cutting off escape. Then the humans spoke for the first time. A message was broadcast to the defenders. Only 3 words. "For the children." The Kroll commander trembled. He had heard the stories, the warnings from other empires. He had laughed once. Now, his hand shook as the words echoed through the fortress. The humans attacked. Explosions tore through the walls. Fire spread in the corridors. Kroll soldiers fell back step by step, but the humans pressed forward, unstoppable. They moved not for conquest, not for glory, but for justice. Every step, every strike carried the weight of stolen sons and daughters. Hours later, the fortress was silent. Smoke drifted through its ruined halls. Human banners hung from the command deck. The Kroll survivors huddled in fear, whispering among themselves. They did not understand mercy, but they understood terror. Admiral Vance stood at the heart of the fortress, her voice calm. "This is only the beginning. You broke the first galactic law. You took our children. Now we will take everything from you." The message was sent across the stars. Every empire heard it. Every race that had once doubted now believed. Humanity had struck its first blow, and the Kroll had bled. Whispers turned into fear. Fear turned into prophecy. The galaxy knew what would follow. The humans had drawn first blood. But in the shadows of Kroll space, darker truths waited. Hidden deep within a secret station, the missing children still cried out, their voices muffled by steel walls. The Kroll Dominion believed the humans would never find them. They were wrong, for the humans were coming, step by step, strike by strike. And with each victory, their wrath grew sharper. The first battle was over. The war had begun. The fall of the Kroll fortress shook the galaxy. News of the battle spread faster than light. Merchants carried the tale. Smugglers whispered it in dark corners. Soldiers of other empires repeated it in fear. The humans have struck. The words carried weight. For centuries, the galaxy had remembered the first galactic law, but none had ever seen it tested. Now, the test had come, and the result was clear. The Kroll Dominion, proud and powerful, had lost a fortress in a single night. And this was only the beginning. Admiral Soraya Vance sent no victory speeches, no boasts. The humans did not celebrate. They moved in silence. More fleets left their docks, vanishing into the void. War factories lit up, forging weapons older empires had hoped to never see again. Humanity did not need to roar. Their silence was louder than thunder. Among the other races, fear turned to respect. The SCIFI traders avoided Kroll space altogether. The Varick nobles spoke quietly of siding with humanity. Even the WONN warlords, once enemies of Earth, chose to step aside. None wanted to stand against the fury of a people avenging their children. But some went further. The oppressed species under Kroll rule began to rise. Small rebellions broke out on frontier worlds. Old flags, long hidden, were raised again. The humans had shown the Kroll could bleed. Now, others dared to strike too. The Kroll Dominion tried to crush the unrest, but their fleets were stretched thin. Every time they moved to put down a rebellion, human ships appeared in the shadows. Convoys vanished. Patrols were ambushed. Fortresses went dark. The Kroll leaders shouted in anger, but inside, fear gnawed at them. For the first time in centuries, the Kroll felt hunted. On Earth, the High Council watched the reports with grim satisfaction. One counselor spoke, his voice steady. The galaxy is watching. Every action we take must remind them why this law exists. Admiral Vance agreed. We will not only punish the Kroll, we will make them a lesson. The stars will remember this war. The plan unfolded with precision. Humanity's fleet struck and vanished, never staying in one place. They crippled the Kroll economy, destroyed their shipyards, and shattered their supply lines. With each battle, their reputation grew darker, sharper, like a blade drawn across the galaxy's throat. But the humans were not reckless. They sought more than revenge. They sought the children. Every captured Kroll ship, every fortress taken, every prisoner questioned, always the same question was asked. Where are they? Most Kroll refused to speak, terrified of their own masters. But whispers began to leak. A secret station, a hidden world, a place where the children were held as trophies, as weapons for some future plan. The humans listened, and they marked their maps. Meanwhile, in the Kroll capital, fear turned into desperation. The Dominion's High Lord gathered in their throne room, their voices loud and angry. Some demanded peace. Others demanded total war. But none could agree. The law had been broken, and now the punishment was falling on them. One lord finally shouted what all feared. What if humans never forgive? The chamber fell silent. They all knew the answer. In the shadows of the galaxy, alien spies carried the debates to their own rulers. Some hoped the humans would stop once the children were found. Others feared they would not stop until the Kroll Dominion was nothing but dust. Back in the Orion Rift, humanity struck again. A Kroll fleet of 10 warships was destroyed in a trap laid by only 4 human vessels. The survivors swore they had seen death itself in the void. The humans did not cheer their victory. They only whispered the same words, again and again, for the children. The galaxy trembled at those words. And yet, in the dark cages of a secret station, the children still cried. Their voices were weak, but they had not been silenced. Guards heard them at night and shivered, as if the sound itself carried doom. For far away, humanity was listening, and they were drawing closer. The reckoning was no longer coming. It was already here. The war had grown beyond whispers. The galaxy no longer asked if humanity would strike. The galaxy asked only where they would strike next. The Kroll Dominion was bleeding. Outposts had fallen. Shipyards burned. Entire fleets had vanished into the void, their wreckage drifting silently among the stars. Yet still, the humans pressed forward. For the Kroll, fear turned into desperation. Their leaders, the High Lords, gathered in the shining throne hall, surrounded by guards and banners of power. They were once proud, their voices loud with arrogance. Now their words cracked with panic. They are tearing us apart, one lord shouted. We lose ships faster than we can build them. Entire colonies rise in rebellion the moment humans appear in the skies. Another slammed his clawed hand on the throne table. We should never have touched their children. The galaxy warned us, but we thought them weak. Silence followed those words. Even among the Kroll, no one dared deny the truth. They had broken the first galactic law. Now the punishment was falling upon them, piece by piece. And humanity was not finished. Far above Kroll space, Admiral Soraya Van studied the glowing maps of enemy fleets. Her eyes were sharp, her voice calm. We have cut their borders. We have broken their fleets. Now we strike their heart. Her officers nodded. The plan was set. Humanity would take the war to the Kroll throne itself. The fleet moved in silence, slipping through dark corridors of space, unseen by enemy eyes. Thousands of ships, each carrying the weight of vengeance, drifted toward the Kroll core worlds. When they arrived, the sky itself burned. The Kroll capital world had never been attacked. Its defenses were mighty, its fleets vast. But when the humans came, they came like a storm. The first wave destroyed the outer defenses in minutes. Cannons that had stood for centuries fell silent. Great orbital stations, proud and unbroken, split apart under human fire. The Kroll defenders fought with fury, but it was chaos. Humanity struck with precision, every move calculated, every strike exact. From the planet's surface, the people of the Dominion looked to the skies and saw fire raining down. For the first time in their history, they realized they were not untouchable. Inside the throne hall, the High Lords trembled. The walls shook as distant blasts tore through their defenses. Guards rushed in, shouting that the humans had broken the outer lines. The throne itself seemed to quake under the weight of fear. One lord screamed, "We must surrender! End this before they destroy us all." Another roared in reply, "Surrender is death. We fight to the last world." Their voices clashed, but no one listened anymore. The throne of the Dominion was shattering, not from human fire alone, but from within. Meanwhile, in the orbit above, Admiral Vance's fleet cut through the last of the Kroll armada. Human soldiers prepared for boarding actions. Their voices were steady, their minds clear. They had no hunger for conquest, no thirst for glory. They had only one vow, for the children. The battle raged for hours. When the smoke cleared, the Kroll's proud defenses lay in ruins. Human banners flew above shattered stations. Survivors whispered in terror, their eyes hollow with defeat. But the war was not finished. Through the chaos, human intelligence officers uncovered fragments of truth. Data pulled from captured ships, whispers from frightened prisoners, all pointed to the same rumor, a hidden fortress deep in uncharted space. A fortress where the stolen children were held. Admiral Vance studied the reports. Her face did not change, but inside, her heart hardened. "Then we know our next target," she said. The officers around her fell silent. They all understood. The war was not just about punishing the Kroll. It was about bringing the children home. And so the next phase began. Humanity had shattered the throne of the Dominion, but their true goal still waited in the dark. On the Kroll capital world, smoke rose into the skies. The people wept, the High Lords argued, and the empire crumbled. But far away, in the hidden cages of steel, a child opened tired eyes. They did not know the battles above, nor the throne that had fallen. They only whispered one word into the dark: "Help!" And across the stars, humanity was already coming. The galaxy had watched in silence as the Kroll Dominion fell piece by piece. Their fleets lay scattered, their throne world in ruins, their pride shattered. Yet still, one terrible truth remained unsolved. The children were not found. Admiral Soraya Vance stood aboard the flagship Resolute, her eyes fixed on the holomap. It showed the dark edge of uncharted space, a region avoided even by smugglers. At its center pulsed a red mark. Intelligence reports all pointed to this place. The Kroll called it Fortress Kareth, their last stronghold. It was said to be hidden inside a dead star, shielded by energy storms and guarded by their most loyal warriors. If the children were anywhere, they would be here. "Judgment Day," Admiral Vance whispered. Her voice carried no joy, no anger, only certainty. The fleet prepared. Thousands of human ships formed into battle lines. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots sealed into their cockpits. Engineers whispered quiet prayers. Every man and woman knew this would not be just another battle. This was the end. When the order came, the fleet jumped into the storm. Space tore open, and the fortress revealed itself. A monstrous structure carved into the heart of a dead star, glowing with unnatural power. Towers of steel rose like fangs, each armed with weapons that could shatter entire cruisers. Around it swarmed the last Kroll fleet, massive and desperate. The moment humanity arrived, the battle began. Lasers burned through the darkness. Missiles streaked across the void. Ship after ship exploded, painting the battlefield with fire. The Kroll fought like cornered beasts, hurling everything they had. But the humans did not falter. They moved as one, each ship a part of a greater storm. Inside the Resolute, Admiral Vance stood calm, her command sharp and steady. Cut through their flanks. Protect the carriers. Keep pressing forward. We take the fortress, no matter the cost. Her words spread through the fleet like fire. Human ships pushed harder, striking with precision. Kroll defenses began to break. For every human ship lost, 3 Kroll burned. But the fortress was not only defended by ships. As the fleet closed in, its great towers awoke. Beams of energy roared out, tearing through cruisers like paper. Shields flickered. Alarms rang. Entire squadrons vanished in bursts of light. The Kroll had built this fortress to stand against empires. And for the first time, humanity felt the weight of its wrath. Still, they did not turn back. Boarding teams prepared. Drop pods armed. The soldiers of Earth and its colonies looked toward the burning fortress and saw not fear, but duty. They had crossed half the galaxy for this moment. For the children, they whispered again. The first boarding waves launched. Hundreds of pods streaked through fire, smashing into the fortress hull. Soldiers burst out, weapons blazing. Corridors filled with gunfire and smoke. Kroll warriors fought with savage strength, but the humans pressed forward, step by step. Deep inside the fortress, the cages awaited. But the Kroll had prepared more than defenses. At the heart of Fortress Kara stood a chamber of black stone. Inside it, a High Lord of the Kroll waited. Unlike the others, he had not fled, had not hidden. He had sworn to hold the children to the last breath. His voice thundered across the fortress, amplified by speakers. You dare challenge us here? You dare steal back what we have taken? Then come, humans, come and meet your doom. The soldiers heard his words echoing through the metal walls, but they did not stop. In the command center, Admiral Vance's jaw tightened. She knew the fight was far from over. The Kroll would not go quietly. This battle could cost them everything. And then a transmission broke through the noise. It was faint, weak, almost lost in the static, but it was human. A child's voice. Help, we're here. The bridge fell silent. Every officer froze. The children were alive. Admiral Vance closed her eyes for just a moment. Then she opened them again, sharper than ever. Mark that signal. Guide our teams. Tell them. She paused, her voice steady but filled with fire. Tell them the children are waiting. Across the fleet, the word spread. Soldiers fought harder. Pilots dove deeper into the storm. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. For this was not just a battle anymore. This was Judgment Day, and humanity was about to deliver it. The fortress shook like a dying beast. Fire spread through its steel veins, alarms screamed in every corridor, and the roars of war echoed in the dark. Humanity had come, and the Kroll were falling. But the battle was not over. Admiral Soraya Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes locked on the signal they had received. The children's faint voices had broken through the storm of war. They were alive. Somewhere deep inside the fortress, hidden behind walls of blood and steel, they waited. Guide our soldiers to the signal, she ordered. We end this now. Across the fortress, squads of human marines pressed forward. They fought through endless waves of Kroll warriors, each one more desperate than the last. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal. Every step cost blood, but still they advanced. For the children, they whispered with every pull of the trigger. Finally, the soldiers reached the great chamber. Its doors were black and scarred, carved with the symbols of Kroll pride. With a blast of charges, the doors fell inward, and the truth was revealed. There they were. Rows of cages lined the chamber. Inside them, the missing children huddled, their faces pale but their eyes alive with hope. Some cried. Some reached out weak hands. And when they saw the human soldiers, their voices rose as one. They came for us. But between the soldiers and the cages stood the last wall. The High Lord of the Kroll. He was larger than any warrior, armored in black steel, his eyes burning with hate. A massive blade glowed in his claws. He had sworn to guard the children, not for mercy, but to deny them freedom. You will take nothing from me, he roared. His voice shook the walls. If I fall, I will fall with their blood. The battle that followed was not of ships or fleets, but of flesh and fire. The High Lord charged with inhuman strength, cutting down soldiers in a storm of steel. But the humans did not break. They circled him, striking, shooting, fighting as one. At last, he stood against Commander Elias Ward, leader of the boarding teams. Ward's armor was scorched, his weapon cracked, but it will burn brighter than ever. "This ends now," Ward said. The High Lord roared and struck. Blade met steel. Sparks flew. The chamber echoed with every clash. The children watched in silence, holding their breath, as the fate of their lives was decided in those few moments. Finally, with a surge of strength, Ward drove his blade through the alien's chest. The High Lord's roar turned into silence. His body fell heavy to the ground. The last stand of the Crow was over. Cheers rose from the soldiers, but they wasted no time. They rushed to the cages, tearing them open, lifting the children into their arms. Tears mixed with laughter. Some children clung tightly, refusing to let go. Others whispered words of thanks. The fortress still burned, its walls cracking under the pressure of human fire. Admiral Vance's voice echoed through the comms. "All teams, evacuate. Bring them home." And so they ran, not away from defeat, but toward victory. With the children safe in their arms, they boarded the waiting ships. Drop pods launched through fire. Carriers opened their bays to welcome them in. One by one, the survivors were pulled from the jaws of the Crow's fortress. When the last ship left, the fortress collapsed. The dead star swallowed it whole, and with it, the empire of the Crow. On the Resolute, Admiral Vance stood as the rescued children were brought aboard. They were tired, thin, frightened, but alive. And in their eyes was the same fire she saw in her soldiers. Humanity's children. Humanity's future. One small girl looked up at her and whispered, "You came for us." Vance knelt, her voice soft but firm. "We always will." The galaxy would remember this day, not only because the Crow Dominion had fallen, but because humanity had shown its truth. They were not just survivors. They were not just warriors. They were protectors, and anyone who broke the sacred law against their children would pay the price. As the fleet turned for home, the stars themselves seemed to bow. The story of the first galactic law will be told for generations, in every world, in every tongue. And in that story, one truth would shine brighter than all others. Humanity had come. Humanity had fought. Humanity had won.